are days away from the June primary.
Encourage everybody to exercise their right to vote.
Californians deciding who they want in office, making the decisions that impact you.
The number one issue right now for voters is affordability.
Hear from the candidates looking to represent the state.
This is a hard job at a really hard time. Why do you want to be California governor now?
Your choice, your vote. KCRA 3 presents the KCRA 3 Voter Guide.
Thank you for joining us for our Voter Guide special. I'm Edie Lambert.
I'm Galston Dark.
And I'm Ashley Zavala. We are 5 days away from the June primary.
And every voter should have their mail-in ballot, and in several counties, people can now vote in person.
In the next half hour, we'll go over some of the top statewide races that voters are deciding.
One of the top races on your ballot, California's next governor. Here are the top candidates leading in polling and fundraising.
Now, the two candidates who receive the most votes, regardless of party, will advance to the November general election.
For the past 2 months, I've sat down with each of the top candidates for a one-on-one conversation about a wide variety of topics impacting Californians.
One of the governor's main responsibilities is to figure out how to use your taxpayer dollars. Former Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra says he's prepared to cut spending and raise taxes on the ultra-wealthy.
You got to do a little bit of both. I had to do that when I was secretary at HHS in the midst of the worst pandemic any of us had ever seen. I had to save lives, manage a budget, and do it without making cuts to the most essential programs.
Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco is ready to seriously cut regulations and state spending.
Only a Democrat is going to have to raise taxes. California is the fourth largest economy in the world. Don't tell me we have to raise taxes. We have more money than we could ever imagine spending.
Former Fox News host Steve Hilton says he's prepared to cut state spending, cut taxes, and make government more efficient.
I think the real imperative for the next governor is cutting spending. So that I understand that that's often how the choice is seen. You got to cut the programs or increase taxes to pay for them. And that's what all the Democrats are saying.
San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan says he wants to make the state more accountable for the money that it already has.
To some extent, I think it's a false choice when the state has managed to increase spending by 75% in the last 6 years, and nothing's gotten better. We still have the highest housing costs, second highest energy costs, highest unemployment rate.
Former Congresswoman Katie Porter says she would cut state taxes for people making less than $100,000 a year, raise taxes on corporations, and closely look at spending.
I think the answer has to be both. You have to be willing to look at areas where you're spending and make sure they're effective. If you're not willing to do that, you shouldn't be governor. You have to be accountable to taxpayers.
Billionaire Tom Steyer says he wants to close corporate tax loopholes to force big businesses to pay the state's government more money.
Actually, I've said on the first day of my governorship, I will call a special election to close a corporate real estate tax loophole that people call split roll, which has been on the books since over 40 years. That's worth $22 billion a year to the cities and counties of California.
State Superintendent Tony Thurmond says he's prepared to simultaneously cut spending by tackling fraud and tax billionaires.
It's probably a combination. I do think that we can stamp out some waste and fraud and abuse. I think we've seen some examples of where grants that go out and there's no accountability for tracking those dollars.
Former Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa says he's prepared to cut spending.
One of the things I've said, I'm a fan of Jerry Brown. Jerry Brown left us with a $300 billion surplus. The fact is, with the kind of economy we've had over the last years, the notion that we would have this many deficits.
Another top issue for all of these candidates is affordability and how to deal with rising prices.
Yeah, so many Californians are feeling the pain at the gas pump or the grocery store. Many also are just not able to even afford owning a home in this state.
We asked each candidate if they were governor, how would they specifically lower costs for Californians?
We're going to build. We're going to do it right. That means, and I think every one of the candidates will talk about how we're going to trim back on some of the regulations that make it tough to move forward. We're going to try to make sure we're working with local governments. We try to eliminate some of the fees that make it very difficult to make a project pencil out. we're going to try to make sure that we look at the projects that are almost ready to go.
People aren't even going to believe it. It's like, how did gas get down that cheap already? How did houses get down that cheap already? How did my grocery bill go down so fast already? It's all regulation, and it's regulation in specific areas for the cost of living. We can't afford to live here anymore.
First point of my plan for making our state Cal affordable is $3 gas. The second, electric bills. With gas, we have the highest costs in the country of any state. With electric, we're the highest everywhere except for Hawaii. Electric bills have more than doubled in the last 10 years, the direct result of Democrat climate policies.
I've proposed that right now there's something very concrete we can do to provide people with immediate relief, which is to temporarily suspend our gas tax. We have the highest gas prices in the country, higher than Hawaii, which is in a series of islands in the middle of the Pacific Ocean that has to import in all of its gas. We have the highest energy costs because we have the highest gas taxes.
I'm the only Democrat in this race talking about giving tax relief to California families. Look, life here is unaffordable, and the question is, what are you willing to do about it? And what I'm willing to do about it is to say to Californians earning less than $100,000, keep at what you earn. The state of California shouldn't be taking a cut out of that because it's hard enough to make ends meet here on $100,000.
There's no silver bullet in housing. It's silver buckshot. So we need to shorten the times and make the permitting simpler, because the cost and time of permitting is extremely high in our state and debilitating. We made a move on it last year in reforming CEQA, but we're far from done in terms of permitting.
A lot of the folks in my race are saying they're going to lower costs. I don't see how you do that. Government can set conditions that ultimately businesses help to set some costs, but by itself, government can't just lower a cost. And so I think right now we have to do two things: provide immediate support to Californians in the form of a tax credit, and then focus on helping Californians to build their wages.
First thing we're going to do, a moratorium on regulations that raise the cost of gas and jeopardize the existence of any more refineries.
We also talk about a wide range of issues, from healthcare to education to the state's climate goals. You can watch my full conversations with each candidate right now on the KCRA 3 app.
Well, your representation in Congress. Voters approved the redesigned congressional districts here in the state. And we take a look at the 5 districts California Democratic leaders are hoping to flip.
And voters will be deciding all of the statewide offices. We hear from the candidates running to be your next lieutenant governor about why they want to serve in that position.
I want to welcome you back to our KCRA 3 Voter Guide Special. Vote centers in several Northern California counties are open right now. Californians will be deciding who they want to represent them in Congress.
This will be the first time under the newly redesigned maps approved by voters under what's known as Proposition 50.
Last fall, Governor Newsom and the legislature redesigned the maps to try to flip 5 congressional seats from Republican to Democrat. Curtis Ming breaks it down for us.
Last November, California voters approved Proposition 50, and that changed the landscape of the congressional districts in the state. Now, Prop 50 was in response to Texas redrawing their congressional maps to give the Republican Party there an edge in future elections. Now, under these maps, Governor Newsom and Democrats were hoping to flip 5 congressional seats in California. So let's take a quick look at those 5 seats. We start with District 1 here. This redrawn district stretches more to the west to include counties in the North Bay, and it removes many of the constituents in the northern part of the state. Now, District 3, it now includes parts of the Democratic-leaning Sacramento County, and it removes much of the eastern Sierra. Moving to the Central Valley now, District 22, it now stretches north into Fresno County. And District 41, that was in Riverside County, but it was replaced entirely by a new seat in central Los Angeles County. And finally, on election night, we will also be watching District 48. This redrawn district covers part of San Diego, and it would also pick up Palm Springs. So we will be tracking all of this and more on Tuesday as we watch the balance of power of the U.S. House. Back to you.
After Texas and California changed their congressional districts, of course, several other states followed suit.
Here's a look at where states stand. Utah changed its maps to try to flip one seat. Virginia's new maps were approved by voters, but then struck down by the state Supreme Court. Texas, Missouri, Ohio, Tennessee, and North Carolina and Florida have all changed their maps in favor of Republicans. They have potentially flipped 14 seats.
Brandy Cummings, Cecil Hannibal, and I have interviewed the top candidates running for 9 of our congressional districts in this region. You can see where candidates stand on the top issues right now on our KCRA 3 app.
Next, we will hear from the 5 candidates running to be lieutenant governor and why they say they're prepared to hold the state's second highest office.
We are 5 days away from the June primary, and there's been a lot of focus on the race for California governor.
Yeah, but Californians will also be deciding who they want to represent them in a number of statewide offices, including our next lieutenant governor.
I sat down with the top candidates running for that job.
5 people say they're prepared to hold California's second highest office.
So the role of lieutenant governor, a lot of people consider this a ceremonial position, stepping in for the governor when they're absent or if something happens to them. But how would you specifically try to make an impact in this role?
Yeah, I think lieutenant governor is very, very important. Anything happens to the governor, lieutenant governor has to be ready and willing to step up on day one.
Democratic candidate Fiona Ma is currently the state treasurer.
Rising tide lifts all boats, and I think that is something that, lieutenant governors perhaps didn't do in the past, is really go out to the community, listen, learn, and then make sure that every county, is able to be as independent as possible.
When I was mayor, we reduced homicides with the first basic income program.
Democrat Michael Tubbs is the former mayor of Stockton.
And as lieutenant governor, sitting on the UCCSU and community college boards, that's some of our largest employers in the state, some of our largest landowners in the state. So we think about the housing affordability issues. When we think about the future of work, the governor just put out his AI executive order today. It's going to be the higher education systems that help carry that work out. So I think there's a lot that can be done with lieutenant governor.
Well, here's the truth. I am the only person running for lieutenant governor who has actually been a lieutenant. I was a lieutenant in the military.
Democrat Josh Friday leads California's version of the Peace Corps in Governor Gavin Newsom's administration.
What I loved about being in the military and being a lieutenant is that you are given a mission and you put your head down until the mission is complete. And what I want to do is go to the next governor, whoever that governor may be, on day one and say, let me be your lieutenant. Because I've had a front row seat to the governor's office for the last 7 years sitting in the governor's cabinet. I know how hard that position is. I know how complex the issues facing California are.
I often laugh and I say they call it the Seinfeld of state government because many people believe it's about nothing.
Republican Gloria Romero used to serve in the state Senate when she was a registered Democrat. The lieutenant governor can be the tie-breaking vote in the state Senate, but that hasn't happened since 1996.
Day one, I would meet with all 40 senators. I've always worked across the aisle to start laying out, this is the cabinet that the people have voted on, and this is what we would like to see accomplished. That's a big task. I don't think it's ever been done. I would do it.
The lieutenant governor role has been underutilized, underleveraged, and I think for the most part, taken on by people who maybe see it as a stepping stone.
Democrat Janelle Kelman is an environmental attorney and former mayor of Sausalito.
I actually want to be the lieutenant governor. I think the job of the lieutenant governor is a roadmap for both economic and success and opportunity for everybody here in California.
Aside from stepping in for the governor when needed, the lieutenant governor helps oversee the state's higher education system, the UCs, CSUs, and community colleges.
I intend to use that role as a major bully pulpit to create a TK through 16 education pipeline. You have to have a push-pull on education. I would advocate as well, too, for an inclusion, once again, of the SAT. We have to have metrics because it doesn't do anybody any good when you pass students along who are not doing their grade level work.
It's completely unacceptable that folks are sleeping in their cars and sleeping on the floor and paying $800 a month to sleep in the kitchen and share spaces, which is stories I've heard from students throughout the state and workers. So the first thing is using the land use authority of the UCCSU community college system to build the housing that students and workers need.
I think we need to make community colleges free for all Californians. And as you probably know, about 70% of first-time enrollment fees are currently covered, but I want to close that gap and I want to make sure that's universal. And I want to make sure that it applies in those areas where we need workers the most, like healthcare or wildfire mitigation specialists.
I think what we need to really make sure we're doing is aligning public education and higher education with the actual needs of our workforce. And right now we have a massive teaching shortage. We have a massive nursing shortage. We have a shortage of, we don't have enough welders to build the wind turbines that we need to actually solve climate change and lower the prices of energy in California.
More apprenticeship programs. More people are not sure if they want to go for a 4-year degree anymore, but they may want to work with their hands. And so making sure we fund pre-apprenticeship as well as apprenticeship programs, I think is going to be the new trend, especially in AI. We also need more housing on college campuses. Too many students are driving long hours or sleeping in their cars. And my office built a very successful 362 units at the Santa Rosa Community College, and it made a huge difference for that university because the rents are so high.
My full conversations with all of these candidates for Lieutenant Governor are available right now on the KCRA 3 app. Along with the governor and lieutenant governor, California voters are also deciding who will lead several statewide offices.
Yeah, voters will be deciding who they want to be their Secretary of State, State Controller, and State Treasurer. Californians will also be choosing who they want as Attorney General, Insurance Commissioner, Superintendent of Public Instruction, and Board of Equalization. And now we've laid out all the candidates running for these statewide offices and a breakdown of the responsibilities for the job. You'll find that on our KCRA 3 voter guide.
Making your voice heard. We hear from voters who cast their ballots on why it is so important to vote. Californians have 5 days left to make their voices heard. Millions of people have already cast their ballots in the June primary, and we spoke with some people across Northern California about why they feel it is important to vote.
If we don't participate in, who we want to make our decisions for us, people who we want to represent us.
This is a great chance to get out there and do your duty and do all you can, which is vote.
It's just important that we as American citizens vote for the ones that we think will be our best leaders, and that's why I'm here.
Putting our voice out there.
I feel like it's my civic duty to vote my opinion.
We really have to be a part of what our elected leaders are doing in Washington. We need to tell them what we want.
We should vote because it's our constitutional right.
This is my way of participating in our government and having a say.
If I don't vote, then I don't get to say I was a part of it.
My vote counts.
It's a duty of the citizen to have a voice and speak.
Your voice matters. It does count. And you need to exercise that vote.
Well, there you go. And there are several ways you can still vote. All registered voters should have received their mail-in ballot.
You can still mail your ballot back, but make sure it's postmarked before or on Election Day. In some areas, getting the postmark will mean you have to mail your ballot before Election Day. You can also drop off that ballot at any vote center or county elections office.
In several counties in our area, vote centers opened up last weekend. These counties that you see on your screen are part of the Voters' Choice Act to give people more time to vote. Several more vote centers will open up on Saturday.
And if you do prefer to vote on Election Day, polls will open up statewide at 7 in the morning and they will close at 8 p.m.
Want to learn more about a race on your ballot? Check out our comprehensive voter guide to hear from the candidates and learn about the responsibilities of each job. The KCRA 3 Voters Guide is a free resource available right now on the KCRA 3 app.
Thank you so much for joining us for our Voter Guide special.
Yeah, join us Tuesday evening. We'll be bringing you the results as they come in.
Have a good night.